Others have testified that the military is stonewalling these efforts. But next week, more UAP hearings said to be planned up on Capitol Hill by members of the House Oversight Committee. They have also, or at least one of them, has hired the UFO whistleblower David Grush to help with the investigation. Grush alleged that the Pentagon has been operating a secret UFO retrieval program. And this week, the Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson, who has spearheaded congressional efforts on UAPs, spoke to him a few weeks ago, as you see there. He told us that next week will be crucial.
It's going to be the most focused and intense UAP, UFO investigation week that I've had. We're going to be having meetings with Arrow. We're going to have an open hearing to the public.
Here now with what we can expect, potentially, NewsNation investigative journalist Ross Coulthart. Ross, it is always nice to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. You've got a big special. We'll get into that in a second. But I wonder what you think, if anything, what we might learn next week if this hearing at the House Oversight Committee ends up coming forward.
Good evening, Blake. Well, I can tell you the thing I'm most interested in is the very thing that you and I won't get to hear about, because what's significant about next week is that for the first time, we may very well be getting the first time that David Grush is put into a skiff, into a secure compartmented information facility where he can give evidence in detail to the members of the committee for the first time under oath. And this is where the opportunity will come for the members of Congress to actually hear properly for the first time the full details of what David Grush knows. He's already given evidence about it to the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee, but this is an opportunity for those members in the House who now have the security classification clearances to hear it, and David Grush has got his clearance to be able to give it, and so we're going to get the opportunity for that hearing to happen.
So do you think Grush in that environment, so up here, as Ross laid out, in Washington, there's areas where you just can't talk about information, and they set up these skiffs so that lawmakers or whoever go in and it's secure, right? And so as Ross outlines, basically that's when Grush is going to be able to go in with the members of the committee and sort of talk about some things. Do you think that blows the doors wide open, or is it just incremental at that point?
It's always going to be incremental. At the same time as there are a lot of members, Anna Paulina Luna, as the chairman of this Transparency Committee, are trying to push the doors open. You've also got a huge resistance back from the intelligence community and the Pentagon. So it's a kind of a funny game right now. Everybody knows the known knowns are known. The big issue is, will you and I get the opportunity to see them and hear them? And that's what's playing out next week.
What's your best guess on that? Because we had our NewsNation DDHQ poll, Ross, just from last week, and this was I thought, the most fascinating thing from it. Is the U.S. government hiding UFO information? 44% of the country say yes. It was about half of those who are Gen Z, basically like 30 and under. So the public wants more.
They sure do. And look, if the volume of interest that we have at NewsNation in this issue is any indication, the public want answers. And so a lot of people are looking to the new administration, to President Trump, to take a lead on this. And it's very interesting because we've now got former Senator Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and now National Security Advisor. He's now in the prime position as somebody who has previously pushed for transparency on this issue to ask the hard questions of the intelligence establishment. So the ball is very much in the new administration's court. We're looking to the new president to take the lead.
You optimistic?
Yeah, I am. I actually really am. I'm getting good feelings from people in the administration. I do think that there is an intent to get to the bottom of this. You've got Tulsi Gabbard in DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Nash Patel in FBI. There is a secret FBI investigation ongoing into allegations of criminality and illegality. They are taking this seriously, commendably, for the first time in decades.
Well, let me ask you this, George. When you are looking at the state of play right now, do you believe we've made progress? And what's your biggest question going forward?
Well, we have made progress since that New York Times story, 2017. Congress has shown it's interested in the topic after being hands off for more than 50 years. Major media at least dabbled in it for a while, now have pulled back. The academic community has come forward. Some people have stepped forward bravely and said, we want to look into this. So yeah, there's progress being made. But, you know, the keepers of the secrets, the folks who are manipulated this topic for almost 80 years now, are better at their job, I would dare say, than you and I and Jeremy are at ours. They have a lot of tools at their disposal. We've seen some of it come out in the last couple of days in national media accounts that muddy the waters, that confuse the public. They've admitted what we've all known for a long time, that they've lied to the American public, that they've lied to Congress. Now we know they've lied to their own military personnel, made up stories, propaganda. It's disgraceful. But now a lot of it is out in the open, so I would call that progress.
Jeremy, I was crestfallen when the Trump administration came in and they told us, we're going to tell you what Biden wouldn't tell you. And then they gave us the same answer about what was in the air over the military bases and other places on the East Coast and elsewhere. How do you explain that?
I don't even attempt to explain that. I just know that the true transparency on this topic is going to obviously come through good journalism. And that's what George and I are focused on, is bringing forward whistleblowers like Matthew Brown and the Immaculate Constellation information, as well as just bringing forward, if we're lucky enough, military film footage of UAP. This is what we've been doing. We believe this to be the path forward. I'm not going to rely on anybody else to help us move this ball forward. I just think the public needs to fight for it.
George, when you look at this issue as a function of transparency, you say the people who are the keepers of the secrets, these days they use the word deep state. In these years of researching this, what is your best reckoning of who we're up against and what they're about?
It's a combination of Department of Defense folks, intelligence agencies, defense contractors. I think it's probably a small group of the people that really know what's going on. And even they probably don't know the big picture. You know, Jeremy and I have been pretty far up the food chain over the years, me even longer than him. And I have never met anyone who really knows the true story. I've run into a lot of people whose job it is to confuse the public, to muddy the waters, to slip out propaganda, as we've seen over the past couple of days and over many years. You know, I don't know what the big answers are. Like you, Chris, I'm not expecting to meet aliens. I don't believe in aliens. I was attracted to this story because of the paper trail of documents, memos, reports that were shared within the Department of Defense and CIA and other agencies before the Freedom of Information Act became the law. And in those reports, it shows they were saying, hey, this is real. It's not imaginary. It's not fictitious. It's real. It's not us. It's from somewhere else. We need to figure it out because there are national security issues involved. 1953, the Robertson panel gets together for CIA. They spend 6 hours over 2 days looking at UFO evidence, and they decide UFOs are not a threat to national security, but the reporting of UFOs is a threat. And we need to strip it of its aura of mystery. We need to debunk it. We need to use ridicule. And that's pretty much been the policy of the U.S. government ever since. And it ticks me off. It's what got me hooked on the topic. They're telling the public one thing. They're saying something behind closed doors to themselves that is far different. And it makes me angry.
And Jeremy, this was part of our bond, right? Is that when I first came to NewsNation and I started reporting on this, media came after me about it. They'd mock me. They'd say, oh, man, he's doing anything he can to get ratings. And as George just said, I'm not looking to meet little green men. I mean, I'm open to it. The arrogance of thinking that this is the only planet in a universe that is constantly expanding. You know, I think there's an arrogance in that to believe we're the only ones that figured out carbon-based life. But let's put that to the side. They think they don't have to tell us what they know. And to me, it's a metaphor for what we've seen in so much of government in recent years.
It's way more sinister than that. It's not just that they don't think that they need to tell the truth. They're intentionally muddying the waters with misinformation and disinformation. If you looked at the ridiculous and sinister Wall Street Journal report, then we're supposed to believe that we didn't need a Manhattan Project to win the war. We didn't need the Apollo mission to put us into space because this is all some sort of government cover-up. The new conspiracy, Chris, is that UFOs are not real. That's the new conspiracy, the baseless conspiracy.
George, what do we need to know?
Well, one thing we know is they're never going to give this up. I mean, it's pretty clear. These recent reports that have been issued by Arrow and now the repeated media statements by the former Arrow staffers, there's nothing to it. There's no information. There's no proof. It's stuff that we made up. It's disinformation that we spread out there. We created the story about Area 51. We created the story about nukes being disabled. That's all us. All the technology that people have been seeing in the skies around the world, on every culture, every continent, throughout human history, that's us. It's preposterous. It's ridiculous. There's no way we could ever accept it. But Arrow has made it clear they're not going to give this up. They're not even giving it up to Congress. I admire the people who've been pushing the ball down the field in Congress, but they've been manipulated on this topic as well. There's always something more pressing for members of Congress, for the public, you know, a job, your mortgage payment, your family, bills for Congress. There's Ukraine, there's Gaza, there's the stuff in LA that's unfolding right now. Always something more pressing than UFOs. So the people who tell these lies get away with it.
I have the same question for both of you. And by the way, you know, everybody in common parlance now uses Area 51. That was George Knapp that brought that into the recognition of the rest of us. George, if you were to meet the man, okay, in quotes, and the person who knows, what would be the three things that you would want answers to?
I'd like to know ultimately where they're from and what their intentions are regarding us. Are they interested in us? Are they where they're from? Are they interested in us or the planet more than us? Number two is, why the secrecy? I mean, I could see it in 1947. We just come out of World War II. The world's a mess. Do you need to share that with the public and tell them there's another intelligence more advanced than us? Well, why the secrecy now, though? You know, number three, if the technology is being tested in secret in some hangar somewhere, what do we need to get it done? Can we ever master it? And are the national security implications legit? Because there is a race for this technology. Us, the Russians, the Chinese, maybe the Israelis. How do we ever separate the UFO technology from national security concerns that would allow some president to step up to a microphone and say, we've been lying to you, here's the truth?
What can you add to that, Jay?
I just would have one question. You know, what made you look beyond your orders and not follow your oath? Like, what made you do this? Keep this from the American public. What is so scary to you that you are holding this back from the American public and hurting people's lives? That's what I really want to know. It's more of a human question about the secrecy of UFOs. I'm done with it. The American public's done with it. And I hope we crack this egg as soon as possible.
What do you think the watershed moment will be, George? What do you think has to happen that hasn't yet?
It's got to be a whistleblower who comes forward with a piece of something or some video evidence, something irrefutable. Or it has to be them, whoever they are, wherever they're from. I mean, they're the real architects of the secrecy. Wherever they're from, they've been here a long time. They could make themselves known in some irrefutable kind of a demonstration. They haven't done it. We get little glimpses, little bits and pieces, a look here, a look there, but they started the secrecy, and our government is happy to exploit it.
For me, Jay, you know what I think it's going to be? Advantage. One of these two poison parties is going to realize there's something in this issue for them versus the other one, and they'll go all in down that road. That is my suspicion of why it didn't change from Biden to Trump. It didn't kill the Democrats for Trump to come out with whatever that they were going to come out with. The same way that it wouldn't have killed Trump for Biden to expose whatever it is. And these cats are all about advantage, never about advancement of anything but their own aims.
Hope you're right.
Look, if we still have freedom of journalism, then we're going to push as hard as we can to reveal to people the best evidence that we have. That's our mission. That's what we're going to do. We're going to practice journalism.
Jeremy, I love you. Thank you for being here. You're always welcome. I appreciate the work that you're doing. George Knapp, I got to tell you, I'm so happy that I finally got a chance to speak to you. And I respect that you do the hardest part of the job that I love so well, which is you find a way to tell what people don't want told. And thank you for that. Thank you for your example, and thank you for your continued efforts. If I can help you guys in any way, at any time, I'm a call away.
Whole UFO culture had been fueled intentionally by Pentagon disinformation that spanned decades. That's the question posed by a new Wall Street Journal story. It's reverberating throughout the UFO community tonight. The article is titled "The Pentagon Disinformation That Fueled America's UFO Mythology," And it alleges that the U.S. military knew that UFOs weren't from outer space with aliens on them, but instead spread those rumors for decades. Why? Because it helped the military hide top secret programs they were working on from the public and from America's adversaries. For example, the military was testing a top secret stealth fighter jet in Area 51 during the Cold War. And the Wall Street Journal claims that a colonel delivered photos of flying saucers to local businesses in the area to spread the rumor and stoke the flames that what was really going on at Area 51 was all about UFOs, all in an effort to cover up what was really happening. The Wall Street Journal also goes a step further and claims the Pentagon even lied to some of its own employees, sometimes in so-called hazing rituals. One military officer was reportedly told he would be, quote, jailed or executed if he told anyone about his briefing on a secret alien project. Both the briefing and the project were reportedly fake. UFO skeptics have suggested for years that the UFO question may tie back to Pentagon disinformation. This article raises the question of whether some of the biggest names to come forward in recent years, like Pentagon whistleblower David Grush, could have been fed some of that fake information about UFOs and top secret UFO programs. There are lots of questions here, so let's hear from people who know this subject better than most people do. Joining me now is Ryan Graves. He's the first active duty pilot to come forward publicly about UFO sightings. He's also the founder of Americans for Safe Space. He's also joining me is NewsNation's special correspondent Ross Coulthart, who has done a lot of reporting on this subject. Ryan, I'll start with you. You said on X this is a really one-sided piece in the Wall Street Journal. You said it does nothing to account for the near-daily reality of sightings that pilots, service members, and regular folks witness. But couldn't both be true? Couldn't you really be seeing something, and couldn't there also be this incredible, long-standing Pentagon disinformation campaign?
Well, I think that's exactly right, and that's the other side of the story. But you know, the base core presumption that this whole issue is caused from some in-briefings that were done in a hazing fashion in order to, well, I'm not really sure why, other than to potentially confuse secret technology. But that's not where this originates from. This originates from eyewitnesses that are spotting things, sometimes on the ground, often in the sky, that is very hard to explain. And whether that leads to, you know, an alien origin or something else, I don't frankly know. But the origin of this isn't a mythology that was spread across military individuals. Now, that might have been leveraged in order to take advantage of the confusion that was present from aviators and military folks that were witnessing these encounters. But no, I would disagree that they are the core progeny of this issue.
Yeah, you saw what you saw. You weren't fed some fake disinformation from somebody at the Pentagon. You saw what you saw.
Exactly, and there's thousands of instances of service members and regular people having similar experiences that can't be chalked up to simply disinformation coming from the Pentagon.
Okay.
But it does highlight a very important issue, I think, which is that if this is going on, this is basically a deception campaign against the American public, which I'm very confident that Congress is not read into.
All right, Ross, what do you make of all this, Ross?
Good evening, Elizabeth. I agree with Ryan. I think the hilarious thing about this, it's such a joke, this Wall Street Journal article, because it's effectively admitting what we've known for years, which is that there are people, gatekeepers to this secret about this legacy UAP program, who have been lying to and deceiving the American public for years. And now it's official from one of the most senior people who served as the person in charge of investigating UAPs. Put simply, his explanation makes no sense. The idea that this would just be part of a hazing ritual to try and encourage people to believe in aliens as a cover for some secret UFO, US stealth program, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. We've known for years that disinformation is being used and that UFOs are often used as cover, but that doesn't explain the first-hand witnesses who say they have seen craft and that they have direct knowledge of a UAP program.
Yeah, I guess Ryan, what I don't get is, I get that they want to keep their stealth fighter jet at Area 51 a secret. I'm not sure how spreading disinformation about UFOs accomplishes that by going to the local bars and spreading these pictures and rumors. How does that accomplish that?
I mean, perhaps that had some effect in the 50s or 60s, but I think in the modern era, they're just going to be drumming up more interest than fear. So no, I don't think it's a very effective tactic, and I frankly can't really accept that that would be a widespread implementation technique that would be used. When a secret program such as a SAT program or a top secret program is exposed, there's very clear procedures of what's done as far as reading potential people in and providing them a debrief of what they experienced so they know the procedures moving forward.
Yeah.
There's not an official policy to read people into a fake UAP program to confuse them.
Ross, the Wall Street Journal article alleges that some of the officers who fell victim to this hazing ritual, who were being fed fake information, were told that the program they were joining was called Yankee Blue, and that it was part of an effort to reverse engineer technology on the craft. I gotta be honest, this sounds a lot like what David Grush told you and me in his interviews after he blew the whistle.
Look, it's quite clear, Elizabeth, that someone in the Pentagon has tailored what is quite clearly deliberate disinformation just to confuse the public. One of the other things they've done in this story that the Wall Street Journal aired without any kind of sensible investigation was claims that an electromagnetic pulse test weapon was used against an active thermonuclear missile site in 1967. And they do this to try and explain away what Bob Salas, a captain in the Air Force at the time, describes he saw, which was a missile being shut down by a UAP. And the idea that the US Air Force would sanction the use of an electromagnetic pulse to essentially test a weapon against an active thermonuclear missile, it's beyond belief. It's so ridiculous, it's absurd.
Yeah, Ryan, you think we're obviously Congress, there's a whole committee on UFOs that's been established because they're trying to investigate what the secrets are. Apparently, there will be another report coming from the Pentagon out about this disinformation campaign. This is really going to sound the alarm on that committee, what I would bet. You testified before it.
Well, I did not testify before the new task force that has been stood up, but I believe that this is going to provide them a lot of ammunition to look into some of these claims, which ideally will give them more opportunities to find people that they can speak to determine if this is true or not, and whether the American people have been deceived, even in a small part.
I don't know how you cure suspicions of deception with the revelation that there was a lot of deception. So we shall see, gentlemen. Thank you both so much, Ryan Graves, Ross Coulthart. Appreciate it. What if the Pentagon is using artificial intelligence to look through classified military servers and store thousands of images and videos of UFO encounters, keeping it all a secret, by the way, from Congress and the American people? Well, a new whistleblower is alleging just that. Former U.S. National Security official Matthew Brown revealed his identity this week. He sat down for a wide-ranging interview with investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell on his Weaponized podcast. And we learned much more than Brown's name. We also learned new details about an alleged top-secret government program he calls Immaculate Constellation, or IMCON for short. He claims he saw videos that range from 15 seconds long to 45 minutes long. Some you've likely already seen, like the famous Tic Tac video and the Gumball videos. Others, he said, however, are from UFO encounters we've never heard of before.
Nothing in those videos necessarily proves it's extraterrestrial or non-human. It certainly is anomalous, exotic, and unexplainable.
And advanced.
Yes.
Beyond our capabilities that you know of?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it might have been within our capabilities to replicate, even in an inferior manner.
Mm-hmm.
But quite a lot of it, is, it's either something else or we live in a world where we have been left behind.
Joining us now is investigative journalist and co-host of the Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy, great to have you back to the show. So you've known Matthew Brown a long time. You actually even brought him into a secret meeting with members of Congress before IMCON was ever publicly revealed. When did this all begin? How did you first meet him?
Yeah, this started a long time ago. As you know, like George Knapp and I, when we work on bringing whistleblowers forward, first thing is protect them, even if they don't protect themselves, and get them heard through the proper channels. So Matthew Brown, you're right. I did bring him into multiple meetings with members before the word was ever uttered publicly. But the point of doing that was to get him vetted and heard so that he could testify to the American public, because that is ultimately what people want. They want to hear what's going on. And he discovered so many things that the public has yet to hear. And that's why we started releasing that testimony now, because he didn't end up testifying at the last hearing, if you recall.
Why didn't he?
Yeah, it's a good question. The last hearing was a little bit bizarre, and I'm really hoping this changes. I know that Representative Luna and Burchett and Burleson, they're working really hard to make sure you hear from firsthand direct whistleblowers this time. I mean, you ask, like, why didn't he last time? He's been willing as an American patriot to come forward and put it all on the line. This is not something that is taken lightly. When you come forward and you expose a program like Immaculate Constellation, which, by the way, for our audience, just to be very clear, it was an intelligence and reconnaissance unacknowledged special access program that focused on collecting footage of UAP and reproduction vehicles from diverse, weaponized, and militarized observation platforms. What that means is it's collecting from all our different assets and bringing them in and culling them in for our government to look at, but secretly and behind Congress's back.
Okay, but you mentioned that the congressmen only want people with direct and firsthand knowledge to be testifying. Does Matthew Brown have direct and firsthand knowledge?
Absolutely. There's different levels of direct and firsthand knowledge. When you discover through accidental exposure an unacknowledged special access program, you try to alert all of your higher command on what's going on, and it falls on deaf ears. When you've gone to Congress, when you've gone into these doors and given testimony and the American public hasn't heard about it yet, it's time to do something. So that's why Matthew Brown is really, he's a courageous person, and I think the public needs to protect and support him.
But the point is because I remember interviewing David Grush when he first came out with his story. And there was a lot of question about with David Grush, what did you exactly see or what were you told was going on? Matthew Brown has direct firsthand knowledge that this program, IMCON, Immaculate Constellation, is actually happening. He's seen it with his own eyes.
Yes, and even more than that, we are talking thousands of videos and photos, but a lot of videos that the American public hasn't seen of these advanced craft we call UAP that are of unknown origin. So when you've seen those on the inside on classified servers, and you are now testifying under oath, by the way, sometimes when you're going into Congress, that is a big deal. That is firsthand knowledge of a cover-up of the UFO phenomenon to the American public.
It's interesting, in the clip that we just played, you know, Matthew Brown doesn't come out and say, oh, this is definitely extraterrestrial. He's like, nothing that I know of can do this. He is what I would call responsibly careful in how he characterizes the videos that he has seen. Do you know how many of these videos, like when we look at the Tic Tac video, for example, it's easy, you know, because it's a thermal imaging, it's hard to really discern what you're seeing. Do you have any sense of what this Immaculate Constellation program video archive contains and how unusual or explicit these videos are in terms of showing things that are just not humanly possible right now?
Yeah, so that is an intense question, because I'll tell you this, when I come and I bring more people forward with George Knapp, because we have already recorded with other firsthand whistleblowers that we have yet to release. So I can promise you, people are coming forward, an army of people are coming forward. But the thing is, when you're talking about this footage, what you're seeing there, we need to become educated on. These are weapons platforms. It's better than an iPhone. What you're seeing in these videos, and remember, last week, George and I released a new Tic Tac UFO video to the world that was military filmed. So this is getting out. What you're seeing are craft of unknown origin with advanced capability far beyond anything that we know humanity can make. Matthew is really smart with the way that he presents his words. When we don't know something, we don't know something. But that has always been the issue here. If it is not ours, if it is not China's, and it is not Russia's, How can it do what it's doing in all of these videos that we've accumulated? But our government is well aware. They've been reverse engineering it. That's why they call them non-human intelligence, because we know they're not ours. We know they're not from a terrestrial nation that we are aware of.
Any doubt we'll be seeing Matthew Brown testify soon?
You know, it's a great question. Wouldn't you love to see him testify?
I would.
I certainly would. But there's a number of other people that, again, we've recorded with, me and George Knapp, we have, and they're going to be coming out. So fingers crossed, this next hearing, we have an opportunity, and Congress is listening. They're watching this interview with Matthew Brown as it comes out. Next part is next week. They're watching. So we have an opportunity, and I hope we take it.
All right, Jeremy Corbell, great to have you on again. Thanks so much. Keep us posted.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate you covering me.
Michael Schellenberger joins us now. Great to have you back. So let's start with IMCON, as it's called, I guess, for short. Matthew Brown made a compelling case that the government's been collecting these videos and photos of UFOs for a long time, but we've seen those videos and photos too. What's the difference between what IMCON is doing and what we're all watching?
Yeah, well, hey, it's great to be with you. I think it's exciting because you now have whistleblowers come forward about this program. I had reported on it before and had multiple sources confirm the existence of this program. I think what's so important to know is that what they're saying is that the Pentagon, it's not just a few of these little videos coming out in dribs and drabs, but they are sitting on a significant body of photographic and video evidence that I also, people that did not know about the IMCON program told me of other videos that they had seen of orbs coming out of the ocean near Kuwait, for example, which I testified on as well. There is, I think everybody agrees, there's a huge amount of information that the Pentagon is sitting on, the intelligence community as well as sitting on it, that hasn't been released. And so it's not even the case that this shouldn't be very controversial. I mean, this is what these documents look like. The redactions are outrageous. I mean, you see, it says, what are the possible explanations? This is, by the way, the UAP task force. What are the explanations? And it blacks out two potential explanations.
Isn't it all blacked out? I mean, it looks like just the very top, like email from, is the only thing you can read.
Yeah, it sort of says, I mean, they black out, it says the UAP task force has collected redacted number of reports from this many, the number of years is redacted, and then potential explanations, they say it could be weather, but then there's two other potential explanations. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. This is information that we, the taxpayers, have paid for, and that the Constitution requires that Congress be able to see. The Pentagon's not letting Congress see it in violation of the Constitution. So it's time to get some disclosure going. It's we're way past time for it.
What percentage, if you had to hazard a guess, of what the Pentagon has managed to accumulate, what percentage has become public? Are we talking 2%, 10%, 20%?
I've asked that question as well of multiple people. I've been told under 1%.
Under 1%.
I mean, just a tiny fraction. I mean, look at these. We're getting these tiny clips. We know that the Pentagon, the various military activities are filming and capturing, and not just with photographic or video, but also other sensor data, infrared, radar, all sorts of data has been coming in over decades. If we're being honest, this goes all the way back to World War II. So we're just being treated like children. It's time for the Trump administration to really take disclosure seriously. I think the people have spoken. We want this information.
For the longest time, this was, people who believed in this kind of thing or talked about this kind of thing were dismissed as cuckoos. But we now have sitting members of Congress holding briefings like the one today, holding hearings like the one where you testified. Congressmen, many of them from President Trump's own party, are demanding answers and more transparency about what on earth is going on.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, one of the great, I testified a fair amount now to Congress on various issues. The great pleasure of testifying on UAP disclosure is how bipartisan it is. The members of the committee, Republicans, Democrats, who normally are at each other's throats on every other thing that we testify on, in great agreement that they want transparency. I mean, you looked at the hearing that you just showed, that video, the room is full of people. When you testify on this, the people are turned away. There's so many people that want to get into the hearing room. That's not how it usually is on 95% of the other issues that Congress hears about. I think that the people have spoken we've got some pretty high expectations. We haven't seen the Trump administration deliver on those expectations yet. They really need to do so. We've been 100 days in office. We need some UAP disclosure.
We sure do. Michael Schellenberger, great to have you on again. Thanks.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
A while back, NewsNation reported a claim from a Pentagon whistleblower that back during World War II, Pope Pius XII tipped off the U.S. government about the recovery of a partially intact UFO that Benito Mussolini's Italian government had discovered. So will the new Pope open the vault and share the secrets below the Vatican? I'm joined now by the host of UFO Witness on Discovery Plus, Ben Hansen. Ben, it is so crazy to think that there is a nexus between the Vatican and UFOs, but that's something that was actually discussed in testimony before Congress.
Yeah, it sounds like it's straight out of a Dan Brown novel, Da Vinci Code stuff.
Yeah.
Is the Catholic Church involved in a cover-up, something they don't want their membership or the world to know? David Grush comes out and he talks about this 1933 case where supposedly the U.S. military was tipped off, like you said. They come in, take this UFO, this object, take possession of it at the end of World War II. And allegedly, the Catholic Church has not only records of that, but perhaps going back to centuries, documentation of UFOs or perhaps alien visitation.
So here's what, if P then Q, I'm thinking, why would they keep everything a secret? Because if, their followers, their congregants, they're beyond Catholics, if people start to realize that it's not an Adam and Eve story and it's not just Earth and there's a lot more to it, there goes religion.
I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, that theory, because the idea is the same, concept perhaps that you talk about. Perhaps was Jesus married? Did he have children? The canonical, doctrine of many religions is very kind of set in stone. And so to go back and kind of rewrite history and to say, okay, well, perhaps not only we're not the only ones in the universe, but what if they don't look like us, right? You have, scriptural reference to making God in man's image. So what if they don't really look like us? Would that mean that people lose their faith? Would that mean that they're going to kind of panic and give up on religion? And what about the authority of religion and membership? So all those questions is kind of what the theory is as to why perhaps they believe that either people are not ready for this or that they should indefinitely keep it covered up.
Or you have to rewrite a few books to incorporate the universe instead of just Earth, But I am curious about the official position that the Catholic Church takes on extraterrestrial possibilities.
Well, it kind of depends on who you talk to, right? So the keeper of the records or the secretary to the prefect of the archives has come out and said that they absolutely do not, they don't know where Grush got this idea. They said they don't have any documentation of extraterrestrial life, and they're dissuading researchers from asking anymore. So there's kind of like a process, sort of like filing a Freedom of Information Act. You can petition the Vatican, see what they say. Will you let us into your archives? And they're saying, stop looking for it. We don't have any of that here. Now, I personally do know of people who have had access to archives. And I do know, according to them, that the Catholic Church has kept records of things such as demonic possession for centuries, very detailed records. But as to the UFO subject, that's more of a mystery. Like you had mentioned in the beginning, 50 miles of shelving, they probably don't even know what they have in there. And I highly doubt it's digitized.
That's my assumption. Yeah, I highly doubt it. Yeah, looking at the books, they're almost falling apart. I only have 30 seconds left, but is there any hope that the new pontiff might be a little more transparent, might open up the archives and let people take a look-see?
Well, I would just say that if you look at what happened under Pope Francis, they did revise the guidelines as to what is considered a miracle, how to investigate or accept something as supernatural. And so the new Pope probably will follow those same guidelines. It makes you kind of wonder, why now? Right? Is there something about now that they think might be coming down the road as to why they have to stay ahead of it and kind of have a standard by whereby they decide if something's authentic or not. So we'll see.